hard towards learning. We've been very patient and cooperative. What I've learned is that we all have the desire to empower women globally, and I'm able to note that it is kind of universal in almost every region that we all trying to empower women. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. So for me, I am excited to have met all of you. I joined FIDA Media, but I got to learn about the exciting work that is awesome. And I got to put, I would see names, Dibabe, you know, now I'm being able to link the name and the face. And I'm also excited that even as we work towards gender equality, we are not doing this alone. We are doing it cross-border. And some of the strategies, you know, can be employed across border. So I'm excited to see that. Then the other one was? Oh, the last day. The last day is exciting because we get to do a self-reflection on, you know, the work we've been doing, the achievements, the challenges, and even coming up with recommendations. I think that is important for me. And then, of course, getting to network beyond the conference room. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good morning. For me, what is exciting for me is the differences between the implementing partners, which I learned, and the other. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So, one thing that I pick from the 3 days we've been here is the conversation around the reality that we are facing when it comes to women participation in leadership and the different components and what is on paper, and the conversation around how we can make those two match, like what is on paper is what is really happening. That conversation was really insightful for me. And something that has excited me, not from on this day, but overall through the 3 days, is Uganda. The obstacles that I had, the stories, I saw it as a great opportunity, and I look forward to see a Uganda which is telling success story even forward. I have so much hope with Uganda. Yes. And I'm like Maureen, I'm excited to see my sons, my babies tomorrow, sorry.
What excited me was to be able to meet everybody one-on-one and listen to our stories, our experiences that are very encouraging, and it tells we are still on the track. And by the end of 2025, we'll have done something achievable. We'll have brought women to some level, not where when we started the project. And what excites me is that we have the solutions. I mean, we were looking at the 3 countries, the laws that are there protecting the rights of women, and we were able now to borrow from each other and say, if you try this, you'll be able to do this. That really excited me. Thank you.
Good morning to you all. For me, what stood out for me, first of all, is to put face to the names on the emails, to interact with different partners. But also what stood out for me is that I found out that some of the challenges that we face in Uganda are also faced across countries. But what stood out most importantly is that there are strategies that are being used to mitigate some of those challenges, and I am picking them. We are going to employ them in Uganda. Yeah, and what I look forward to is, yes, using the strategies that I've picked from this training, from the different experiences shared.
Good morning, everyone. I think what stood out for me and what hit home, Ethiopia looks good on paper. But if you, just from what they were sharing, the layers of inequalities are rather too many. For Uganda, I think having been there, it wasn't a shocker as such, and they're also our neighbors in the region. But what I saw for Uganda, I mean, for me, what excites me about Uganda, despite all the obstacles, we still have Stella Nyanzi there, Winnie Byanyama. I mean, really, for them, it's not if, it's a question of when. Yeah, for Uganda. But for me, Ethiopia, I had never looked at Ethiopia. Until now, for some reason, I told them, the Ethiopian team, before we have our next general election, I don't know when, where, what, but I have a feeling I must go to Ethiopia. Addis, I am coming. Yes.
Good morning. Hiya. Good morning. It's Friday. Be happy. One exciting thing, I'm happy I'll be going home. And I'm also happy that I met very lovely people here. It was my first awesome learning event. And what I've learned the 3 days, that as women, we can still remain on cause. There is so much that we can do. Looking at the work that all the partners have done, you see there's some level of improvement from where we started to where we are. When I look at the achievements, we've done so much, so when we remain on the cause, we can still make the voice of the woman visible.
Hi, everyone. For the 3 days, I'm happy. I've learned a lot of politics in Ethiopia and Uganda, most of it that I didn't know. And my highlights, this was like a little vacation, away from the house, away from the kids, then meeting new people here. I'm really happy. And I'm looking forward to next year's learning event in Ethiopia. So, yes, so I hope I will be there, but thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So something exciting for me was to get to hang out with like all these people I keep sending annoying emails to, and just to have the opportunity to engage with everyone outside, like not just on a work capacity, but in a fun capacity. And I think I've learned the importance of having in-person spaces, not just to talk about work, but also to have fun together and to share joy, and how these really, really strengthen the feminist movement. And sometimes we forget about the joy and the rest, but it's very important.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm not hearing. Good morning. You have to be so energetic because it's the last day and also it's in the morning. So what stood out for me is the energy I saw in Georgia, because I met her at this learning event, because I know Sarah. Sarah is energetic, but now I found somebody who is more energetic than Sarah and more vocal and really knows what to talk about and what to say, to the level that she has convinced all of us regarding the women's participation, how the government system is working, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to say thank you and keep it up. Also from Kenya, I really found out how the FIDA-Kenya is deeply involved in the election process, and also being advocate for women leadership and participation at all levels, which I will take for me it will be a takeaway, so that both UDNA and Siiqqee really involved in the upcoming election to ensure the women's full participation. So the other thing I'm excited about is, I thought we can achieve it earlier, but statistically that showed to fully engage women in a women participation, ensure women participation, will take 150 years. Was shocking for me. I thought in 20, 30 years we can achieve that. So this is what I just want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your kind words. Good morning, everyone. This has been my very first learning event for AWESOME. It's been really, really nice to meet everyone out of the emails and then the meetings we usually have every quarter online. So it's nice to just meet everyone. And also, it was nice to hear about the work that FIDA-Kenya is doing. It's almost like the work that FOWODE is doing in Uganda. So it's really nice to hear that you're concentrating and you're actually very intentional about women in political leadership, which is, so there are many synergies and so many lessons to learn from each other, and the fact that we also document experiences of women after general elections. I think that was really good. It was also really nice to learn about Ethiopia, and maybe this is also a question between the Prime Minister and the President, who has more powers. I've mostly been hearing about the Prime Minister, Abiy, and I've been hearing very nice things, how he's challenging the rest of African leaders with his gender, like his gender insensitive, he's intentional when he's appointing people in cabinet. Very beautiful things about Ethiopian leadership. But then also hearing about the conflict, and I didn't really know where that's coming from. I will admit that I didn't know there was a president. I thought the Prime Minister was like the overall, and that the president is a woman, so I'm embarrassed to even admit that I didn't know that. So it will also be a question between the Prime Minister and the President, who has more power. It's been nice to meet everyone. Thank you.
Georgia will be handing over to Siiqqee, who can answer some of your questions, as she's from Ethiopia.
Okay, hi everyone. One thing that stood out for me is the level of engagement of FIDA and FOWODE in election, and I'm not quite sure how our civic space is open in my country to engage on that level. We never have tried that far, and it was amazing to see their level of engagement. You know, the publication they had, the thing they had in their website. So that's one of my biggest takeaway, and I'm happy that this is the end, because I will have 1.5 days to look around Nairobi. And I have been off yesterday, and we have been, you know, kind of discovering Nairobi. Thank you for Galarja, who was the lead. Yeah, so I'll have extra time to look around, and to reflect on some of Georgia's question. In our context, the Prime Minister has more power and almost everything instead of the President, who has more of having diplomatic relationship roles. So her power is not that much big. For other questions, other teams might reflect.
Okay, thank you. Salam nacho. Okay, one big thing which I learned is the strengthening of FIDA in political participations and FOWODE. So our difference is the open up of civic space, and the constitutions clearly stated the participations of women and has a quota system in Uganda and FIDA. One thing my big takeaway is it is strongly will continuing our advocacy system, especially for the inclusions of quota system in our constitutions. So these 3 days it is very learning, it is very catchy days because we understand the political participation and the strengths of country, but all in all, our reality is the same. What I exciting for today, I meet my friends and her children. She is a strong disability activist in our country. Currently, she is working as a disability focal person for 24 African countries in UNICEF. So today, I am very exciting. This afternoon, I meet with her and her children. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Good morning, everyone. And it's my second time in a learning event, and I'm happy to see you all again. What the most I doubt for this learning event is that all the issues, especially in terms of women, especially in political and leadership, is almost the same in all African countries except Rwanda. And I wish to work more on advocacies and on to increase the level of participation of women, especially in leadership and in politics. So when it comes to women, it's almost the same in all over Africa, and this is what I get from this learning event. What I'm excited for is that, as you know, we have a content producer producing yesterday, and I'm really excited to see that documentary. And I wish if it is short and to distribute to our consortium, and I'm really excited to do that documentary. Thank you.
Please pass it to Zetihun and Pakaji.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing this morning?
Good.
Everybody is eager, to go back home, enjoy the family. So it's the same with me too. I miss my family. Regarding Maureen's question, what I learned from this learning event is the leadership and election process in all the 3 countries, what it looks like. I learned lots of things from the past 3 days learning event. So I really appreciate those of you who are honestly, openly, clearly share your experience, really, sincerely share your experiences for us. So I got a chance to learn, particularly the involvement, how important women's involvement in election process I understand from others' experience. And what excited me is yesterday's, the documentary film process, how those people who record our voices, take our photos. It was really interesting. So that is also something new for me. For the way forward, I hope Siiqqee will be ready for the coming election. Our engagement, participation will increase. I am sure we will fully involve it in that activity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, my observation and excitement for this 3 days was almost the same, and I am excited to meet friends from Kenya and Uganda and area also from Womankind who share us about some experience outside also about their country, Spain, and especially I'm thankful from the Kenyans who shared us maybe about how a little bit they are involved in this politics, and they share their experience. So that was also one good thing. And maybe for her question about our country, the new government, when they come to power, he was more of maybe gender sensitive and trying to elect 50% for the cabinets, the members of a minister who was 20. But now, because of different reasons, this percentage doesn't stay long. Almost now, as I've said, it's almost 30%. And the president is almost, the power was not this much. It's like working as a figure of the country, and almost all the power rests on the prime minister of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, all. I'm very happy to meet some of you. I always see you in the TV, but today, God is good. I have seen you face to face, and the work you are doing, continue doing it. God bless you.
Morning, everyone. I'm excited that the day is coming to an end. You've kept me extra busy this week, but it's exciting because I'm learning quite a bit from FIDA, WCC, and all the work regarding disabilities. I think that is very, very exciting, and a lot more needs to be done in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's so good to hear like what everybody has learned and what everybody's excited about. I think for me, I'm excited that this all came together. There were two simultaneous processes going on, the coordination of the learning event and then the content gathering. So I'm so glad it came together, because you never know. In the planning phase, you never know when it's going to come together. You never know when the budget will be spent, if the budget will be spent. So I am so, so happy, and I'm also so glad that we had a very able partner, FIDA, who despite their busyness took on the mantle of hosting this learning event. So as I said, and the thing that I'm happy about most is that I get to go home and see my kids. So our presentation order is going to be almost how it's been daily: FIDA, WCC, UDNA, SWDA, and then Womankind. Because I think FOWODE, sorry. The dynamic duo is the one that I'm forgetting. Sorry. Let me put it back in. FOWODE. And then Womankind last, because the Womankind presentation has a bit of decision making in it, and then it has a bit more information, I think. So I think each partner, you can take 20 minutes, but if you take 15, 10, that's also okay. That's also okay. If we have questions, or if I have questions, I will ask you about it. So today's just like a free day. Just give your presentation. If you have any questions for me, since I'm here, you can also ask me in person as well. And then after the meeting, I'll ask a few partners. So a few partners have asked me to talk to them about things, but then also I'll ask a few partners about some things so that we can conclude them while we are here. Okay, great. And that won't hopefully not take too long. All right, so let's start with FIDA. Who from FIDA is doing the presentation? Okay, WCC, are you ready? Who will be making the presentation on WCC's behalf? Jackie, are you ready? Okay, because it's actually, but it's also not your turn, so we're still waiting for Peter. Wow, okay. I will move down the line. UDNA. Yes, UDNA is ready. Let's go. Yes, we'll have to clap for UDNA. Very, very big clap for UDNA because they're ready. I don't think, are we projecting? Do we have a mechanism to project today? Okay, could we have the screens on?
እሺ እሺ Thank you. Good morning again, everybody. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. I shall start with the success. Okay. At self-level, engagement of elected women on participation and fight against GBV at national and regional level is being cultivated. The head of the social issue standing committee of the Ethiopian Parliament made statement emphasizing disability inclusive policy formulation and implementation. Social issue standing committee of Parliament have made their monitoring checklist disability sensitive. At Gondar branch, 5 women with disability are given seats in the local council, which creating the opportunity to raise gender and disability issues in government plan development process and performance review. Member engagement in political space is becoming one of the good practices at EWDNA. 21 members from different sites are engaged in different political structure. Political participation with whom EWDNA workers have stated in their bylaw the different incentives for people with disability who would like to join political life. The importance of political participation is becoming discussion agendas in coffee sessions, which were used to be dominated by social and economic issues at societal level. Certain women with disabilities at different sites have assumed leadership role in community-based organization. Text message is being used by CBOs to communicate their deaf members to solve the communication of barriers which were not the case before AWESOME. CBO have understood the participation challenges of women with disability, have made adjustment to their requirement of membership to foster better participation. As a result, 220 women with disability have newly joined EDRs. One of the major known TASFA social development association that comprises several EDRs at Addis Ababa as a member add their objectives in 2.6. Before the engagement of EWDNA, TASFA EDR associations, it is a network working in different EDRs, have 5 thematic areas. But after the engagement of EWDNA, these TASFA EDRs add the 6th thematic area, the participations of women and children with disability for mainstreaming disability. This was after they receiving trainings from EWDNA on disability, have created awareness to their members, EDRs. To mainstreaming women with disabilities in their functions. There are EDR leaders, justice with judges with disability who are even members of the General Assembly of the Association. Change in awareness at family level of have influenced neighborhood and resulted in their coming out of 520 new shuttings at different sites in this quarter. Due to EWDNA's media work and lobbying effort, Ethiopian Broadcast Authority is preparing a guideline on disability reporting to be made mandatory for all medias in Ethiopia to have allocated time for disability issues and use appropriate and standard terminologies to refer disability. At institutional level, due to the intensive justice sector targeted trainings, disability responsive practices are being observed, which include giving priority for people with disability, and the same is posted at courts. Free legal support including home-to-home service, physical accessibility, and sign language. File of women with disability are marked differently so that they can get priority in their appointment date. Ministry of Health have invited EWDNA to take part in their strategic plan development. Strategic initiatives, indicators, and major activities of the fiscal year of the reproductive health, family planning, and adolescent and youth health services program in terms of women with disabilities. One-stop centers of GBV survivors at Awasa, Addis Ababa, and Gondar have made their service accessible for girls and women with disabilities, availed sign language translators, and considered accessibility availed wheelchairs for wheelchair users. 2 GBV survivors centers at Addis Ababa have made the center physically accessible. Ethiopian Human Rights Commission have developed and started to use a disability guideline and have published human rights assessment reports on the impact of the northern Ethiopian conflict on people with disability and especially women with disability. The same report is presented at EWDNA's event. Election Board of Ethiopia have commissioned a study on GBV during election, and they have requested EWDNA's commenting from disability perspective. The participation and benefits of women with disability in safety net programs have improved. As a result, members are benefiting from the program. Challenges: deteriorating peace and security situations at project sites, which keeps on increasing vulnerability of women with disability to GBV and displacement, and also divert the attentions of government from federal to local level to mitigate those issues than social development issues like inclusion. Lesson learned, the collaborations and support of the local government is gradually being achieved, which will ensure sustainability of the changes. Coming out of members from home to enable them diverse ways in solving their challenges by themselves. Example, they establishing village saving and lending which will contribute to their economic challenges and strengthen of the networking. Lack of awareness contributing the lion's share, and in absence of disability inclusive practices, which actors who are targeting of EWDNA are changing positively towards it. Thank you very much. Our presentation is ended up here. If we have any questions, you are welcome.
Any questions for UDNA?
Thank you, Dibabe. And it's just out of curiosity, you mentioned that I think it was two gender-based sex violence centers had made provisions to make them accessible, which they didn't before. And I'm just curious to know, when you do the advocacy to those centers to become more accessible, where do the funds from making them more accessible come from? And have you encountered issues where centers are like, yes, we want to be more accessible, we just don't have the budget to just make the work that need to be done?
Okay, thank you very much. The only UDNA's conducting is conducting awareness creations on disability and the inclusions of women with disability. The owner of this one GBV centers in Addis Ababa is one of our women rights organizations, is a member and partnering with EWDNA by working this kind of issue. So they made accessible by their own initiatives. The fund is not from EWDNA's side.
Any other questions for UDNA? If there are none, I will ask FIDA. FIDA, are you ready? Okay. Thank you, Dibabe. Thank you, UDNA. You can sit down, we'll do it because the HDMI cable.
Good morning, everyone. So, colleagues, I'm going to present to you reflections from the FIDA-Kenya work this year, particularly looking at the achievements and challenges.
The microphone, yes. So, as you have heard, we have had an interesting year building on the the awesome phases of the work. And we are happy to report that the work that you have been doing over the years, some have borne fruit, but we have also had challenges which we have, crafted mitigations around. But I'll first start with the achievements that we've been able to realize. So this year, following up on the advocacy FIDA-Kenya has been engaged in pushing for the implementation of the 2/3 gender rule that is embedded in the Constitution, the President, as part of his deliverables, his deliverables and the vision for the country, directed the State Department of Gender to look into the issue of 2/3, and particularly called for the establishment of a team to come up with a legislative formula for achieving the 2/3 gender rule, which has been an elusive issue in Kenya. And we are happy to report that FIDA-Kenya is one of the institutions that was identified for the work we have been doing over the years in advocating for the implementation of this constitutional provision. And we were, particularly, I was gazetted to sit in this task force together with other partners to come up with the legislative formula. So, yes. But the interesting thing that happened is that when the first gazettement came out, it only had like 8 women and 7 men. And what happened is that the country went crazy. Like, what do you mean 2/3 and you're the same, you're pushing for 2/3 and the composition of this task force is not gender inclusive. And we found that quite interesting, because how is it that they notice that this particular task force is not gender inclusive when the men are not there? But in other instances, when there are male appointments, nobody ever makes noise. So, of course, to ensure that we are not shooting ourselves in the foot, the cabinet secretary and the permanent secretary quickly went back and added. There are now about 7 men in the list, and most of them are religious leaders. So I'm also happy to report that so far we have begun the work. We have had deliberations. This week we had a meeting on Monday. When I was not able to join, we had a meeting, and unfortunately I have signed a non-disclosure, so I cannot tell you what we have worked on so far. But the only thing I can say is that work is ongoing, and that we were able to meet with we call it NADCO, the team that has been put together by the opposition and the ruling party to come up with suggestions on how to amend the constitution. So we met with NADCO and we presented our initial thoughts on the development of a legislative formula. Again, based on the work that we have been doing around, addressing sexual and gender-based violence, we were able to see that the courts were able to establish special gender-based violence courts in Shanzu, Siaya, and Kisumu County. And we can attribute our work in this area in the realization of these special courts. And I would also like to report that we chair the Sexual Offences Committee at the NCAJ, that is the National Council for Administration of Justice, which Terry is a part of, and our chair chairs that particular committee. So we can actually attribute our work to the establishment of these special courts in these counties. These courts are particularly important because they will be playing a critical role in ensuring that survivors of gender-based violence are able to get, speedy services, and that the courts will particularly be responsive and ensure that the trials are expedited. Then the other thing, we boast of the Women Leadership Academy, but establishing the academy and taking the women through the training was not the end. We are starting to realize fruits from this engagement. We are seeing that there has been a ripple effect from this engagement. The women leaders who underwent the training have now become advocates for gender equality, and other women who are not part of this academy are particularly interested in being trained by FIDA-Kenya and also being part of the movement. So that is another achievement we are happy to report. Again, we as an institution, we believe or we recognize the importance of taking a multi-sectoral approach and also working with like-minded partners. So our engagement includes working with paralegals and working with community-based organizations and male champions. So in this particular area, we are seeing the male champions, taking an initiative to provide legal aid assistance at the grassroots level. We are seeing these paralegals and male champions, referring clients and taking, active roles in furthering gender equality at the community level. Again, some of these male champions and actors and paralegals have also been able to, represent the institution and represent the cause in their various spaces, and some of them have been included in gender sector working groups and even in the court users committees in the various counties where they are. Then the other result, which we can tie to the Women Leadership Academy and the capacity building trainings that we have done, is that now about 66 women now have strengthened capacity to be able to navigate the governance process, to be able to engage in the different leadership platforms where they are. This is based on the trainings we have been conducting on them engaging in crafting gender responsive legislation, supporting them to be able to position themselves strategically and to be able to voice, the gender concerns in their various spaces. Again, because of the various initiatives that we have been supporting, we are seeing strengthened networks and even collaborations amongst our partners and amongst our like-minded organizations. And we have also seen the like-minded organizations reaching out to us to partner with them to be able to amplify the work around gender equality. Again, the partnerships with community-based organizations and male champions, this is contributing to increased community awareness on gender equality because our partners are also using their spaces to be able to create sensitize communities, create awareness around the law, they're working with the local administration, they're working with, community gatekeepers to be able to create awareness around gender equality and to also be able to address sexual and gender-based violence in their communities. Given that we have been supporting, the court users committees that bring together different justice sector actors, we are seeing that this particular platform is fostering collaboration between the justice sector actors. And now, with this collaboration, the various court users committees are coming up with what can I say? What's the word? They're coming up with novel ideas or suggestions or recommendations to be able to avert gender-based violence, to be able to ensure that the justice system is responsive and that communities are able to access, the justice services. The other achievement that we are happy to report is that with our partners, we are now advancing a multi-sectoral approach, which is contributing to us furthering gender equality and us being able to address the systemic barriers to gender equality. Challenges. We always say that if you want, if you want to talk about challenges, you can talk about challenges until the cows come back home. This year, there was something, can I say interesting, unique that happened in this country, and this stemmed from, high inflation, political differences. So because of the political differences between the ruling party and opposition, and us not agreeing on who won and who lost, and concerns about the high, the rising cost of living, the opposition organized what we were calling the maandamanos, and these maandamanos were happening every week, where the country would come to a standstill because there were protests all over the country. So because of the protests, some of the work that we had scheduled to do, and we were not able to do them because of the protests and the violence and the violence and the insecurity as a result of the maandamano. Then the other challenge that we experienced during this period, we had transitions, and that is why I am here today. So can I say it's a challenge? It was a challenge because at some point there was a gap, and then I also came on board and just trying to understand what is happening, where we are, figuring things out. But we are happy to also report that we didn't have a significant gap, because the way we implement, we have the different officers in the regions also take part in implementation. So the team was able to do the work as I was settling in, and whereas that was a challenge, we've been able to mitigate that particular challenge. So that's it from us. Thank you. I welcome questions.
Any questions for Michelle? Everything is super clear from FIDA. Thank you. We will now move on to WCC.
Hi, everyone. I'll be talking about WCC's achievement in the third quarter, and also some of the challenges that we have faced during the implementation process. And so I'll begin with the self, get on to the society, and to the formal institutions. So in regards to the self, as we all know, our main target is women and girls with disabilities. So some of the things that we have been able to achieve in this quarter, one of them being we continue to empower women with disabilities on their legal rights. And we have done, in this quarter, we have reached out to 40 women with disabilities in Busia counties. And we have been able to just sensitize women with disabilities on the legal processes when it comes to cases of gender-based violence. We have also touched on owning of property, especially for women with disabilities. And one of the things that at this point I can say we are getting to be a challenge, even before we come to the challenges, is being able to have the women talk about the cases, the violence that they go through, having them to speak about them, and even coming forward to report. That's one of the challenges which we are facing when we are conducting these legal clinics. Encouraging them to talk about these cases or report the cases. Another achievement we have observed in Nyandarua County, that's one of the target counties, the Disability Act, the County Disability Act is going on, like having it in place. And we have played a big role as Women Challenge to ensure that there is participation of women with disabilities during the public participation, for them being able to identify the gaps and talk about the issues that affect them directly. So for us, we see that as an achievement, having these women with disabilities taking part actively and meaningfully in this public participation, and their voices coming out clearly. Again, on self, because we have been working closely with KEWOPA, and for us, the Kenya Women Parliamentary Association, and for us, this is a very big thing, being able to bring them on board and having their commitment and even commitment when it comes to mentorship. And we are really looking forward to see how this mentorship will take place for the women with disabilities, even as we are coming to year 4, where we have like a cross-learning for the network we have formed of these women who vied, and again, those who are interested in 2027. We are really looking forward to see how this will take shape when it comes to mentorship with the support of KEWOPA. And again, another achievement that we have seen with KEWOPA is them bringing us on board, even especially on their strategic plan. They are developing a strategic plan, 2023-2027, and we were part of the stakeholders who were going through the review of the strategic plan. So we were able to bring out the issues of women with disabilities, and even letting the members of KEWOPA know how we can really work together and have the voices of women coming out clearly in the strategic plan. Because something that we noted, because I was part of it, is that as much as they'll talk about inclusion and the marginalized, but then the women with disability issues were really not coming out clearly. So we were able to contribute to that, and we are looking forward to how this process will go on and have this document that will speak on how they will engage women with disabilities in their plan through to 2027. Going to the society, as Terry has talked about the demonstrations, we engaged, is it Terry or? Michelle. Apologies. So when it comes to demonstration and peace building, we have engaged the society, the community members, through the community drama again, on the involvement of women with disabilities when it comes to peace building. So we took advantage of the Peace Month, being September, where we reached out to 350 community members, not necessarily persons with disabilities, but everyone in general, talking about how the issues of violence, demonstration, and how women with disabilities are affected when it comes to such things. Media engagement, we have seen increased gender-sensitive articles, especially talking about specifically women with disabilities and their achievement. And we mainly do this through the local media station, the local radio stations, where we have women with disability being invited to these programs, talking about their issues, and even getting to listen to get views from the society. And this has been able to help us measure how much the society is benefiting from these radio talk shows, because that's one of the way we measure if the message that we are preaching out there is impacting the society. Being able to get these calls from those who are listening to know how they are changing them, and maybe what is going on the ground, and what they are doing as the society or the community members to change even the perception and attitudes of the other people that they come across. The formal institution. We have an output that speaks to formal institution, and for us, at the end of this project, we want to have at least one county law that addresses issues of women with disability, as much as also we want to have a Person with Disability Act, which is all-inclusive. And for this quarter, an achievement that we have seen is being able to have a breakthrough with one of the counties, Makueni County, in beginning this process of amendment. And I can say let me not go to the challenges right now. It is a breakthrough for us because it's been a long process, having met stakeholders from Kisumu County, then Kiambu County, then now we were here with Makueni County, and I remember just hijacking Maureen and calling her somewhere when we were somewhere in Makueni and asking for an impromptu meeting. And thank you very much, Maureen, for being available and being able to advise us on how to go about it. So for us, this is a big achievement to get to this point where we are signing an MOU with the county government of Makueni County to see the Persons with Disability Act coming to being developed and addressing the issues that are important to us. Then we have this might not be on the formal institution, we have the sign language training, which began even before Q3, but it is ongoing in 3 counties, Meru County, Siaya County, Meru, Siaya, remind me, Jane, and Kilifi County. So we are supporting the training of service providers who are on the front line in responding to cases of violence. So we want them to have the basic and even the advanced skills on sign language interpretation so that they can be of benefit to women with disabilities who are deaf, who seek these services in these institutions, like in hospitals, community leaders, the chiefs, the police, the judiciary, the different responders who respond to these cases of violence. And we are currently training 85 service providers, and we look forward to even the next year having different counties going through this training. So the challenges, bureaucracy, and I think I've faced this firsthand with Makueni County. I must share this experience that it is also a learning, it has also been a learning experience, learning time for me, how to work through protocol. I don't know if I have someone here who has really struggled with protocol, like when you're standing before people, especially government officials, like ensuring you mention people that are supposed to be mentioned first. I really struggled with that. And again, even when sending the emails, who to address those emails to, how to address them, because even when it comes to now the meetings themselves, they will be very cold if you didn't follow those protocol steps. They'll be cold on you. So we had to find a way of really massaging them and creating like an environment, like we are not fighting. We are here for the betterment of persons with disability, just trying to explain to them that we really don't mean bad. We are not diminishing your in Swahili, cheo. What is cheo in English? Your positions, your respectable position. So for us, it was a learning experience. It was also a challenge being able to break through those bureaucracy processes up to that point where we are able to get an MOU. That was big for WCC. And another challenge is the confusion we faced when it came to the Makueni County law, because at the beginning, from the Kenya Law Reform website and from a research, a survey that was done by Kenya Human Rights Commission on the laws, the quality of the laws of persons with disabilities in Kenya, Makueni was mentioned as one of the counties that has a disability law. But then when we went to the ground, when we went to meet the technical committee and the Ministry of Gender in Makueni County, the story was different. There was no county law for persons with disability. So we were left at a very tricky position where we had information that there was a law, but then they're saying there's no law. So after so much engagements and going back again, it was clear that they don't identify it to be a law, and we then realized that it was not assented by the governor. Reason being, there was no public participation for the persons with disabilities. So we had to start at that point. Now it was agreed that we are starting on a bill, not a law that was assented. So it was quite a challenge being able to agree that what are we working with? Is it a law? Is it a bill? That was one of the challenges. And again, as Michelle has mentioned, the demonstrations also affected us, the maandamano, because we had to stop some of our activities, especially in those counties that were strongholds of the opposition, like Siaya County, Kisumu County, just putting everything on hold to be able to have things go down for us to continue. Thank you. Any questions? Or I'd love Jane to add something, especially on the finance bill.
I was sharing something with Jackie here, and it is not a challenge yet, but it will be if the Nairobi finance bill goes through, because what they are trying to do is to reintroduce the P3 form fee that was waived in all the 47 counties. They are coming back with it and saying that if you want to obtain the P3 form, this is when you are sexually abused, when you are physically abused, then the doctor will have to sign this form, and then there is a fee attached to that. And so we are saying we are seeing it as a challenge when the bill will go through. And the government we have today is that even when we go to the public participation, many issues that people are coming up with, adding or opposing, they kind of go through anyway. So really it will be a struggle for Nairobians when you have to pay fee, yet there are so many other things that goes by. And the disability assessment is also something else that we are facing, because when you have to be assessed that you have a disability, you have to pay another fee of 1,000 Kenya shilling. So really, if a woman or a girl with disability has to go through all those layers, then it will be a challenge even to have the justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. I hope there's ongoing advocacy already by women's rights organizations on the P3 form. I hope some of you applied for her voice fund, so you can do that advocacy. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. That was insightful. I remember, and this is a story about how the internet, qua ground, equal different. When Jackie first called me before we had the second and the third meeting on Makueni, I did internet research, very useless. So Jackie is calling me, she's telling me, Makueni doesn't have a law. And I'm telling her, no, Makueni has a law. I'm looking at it on the internet. But now I know that things that are put on the internet are not true, because when I met with Jackie, yeah. So internet research is interesting for Africa, because qua ground, equal different. That means on the ground, it's very different. You can see things on the internet, they look real, but when you operate with the context, it's just different. So it's something for, I think, us donors to take into account. I will call in the next people, SWDA, who will be giving the presentation for SWDA. Zati.
Okay, thank you. We are going to present the work we accomplished in the third quarter of 2023, which is maybe the technical problem here. So I can maybe start with the usual activities. The first one at self-level is peer-to-peer education or discussion, which is planned for to address 4,000 women in the 5 years project, in the project life, and annually it's 1,000. Okay, I can use this one. Annually we plan 1,000, and in the quarter we addressed what is assigned for the quarter successfully. As we have observed from the AWESOME project sites, majority of women became real voice for other women and boldly start fighting against the GBV case. They shared their experience at different public gatherings. So the peer-to-peer education session it strengthened the factory workers even to fight GBV outside their factory at different gatherings. So it was a good strategy. In addition, under the self-level, there are women displaced, internally displaced women who were resettled at Sabata and Galan district. They also got economically and socially self-sufficient because of AWESOME project. At a social level, we 40 elected women leaders from AWESOME project sites and the Oromia region have made a forum meetings and reviewed the women leadership situation and the decision-making role on 24th August 2023 to increase their accountability to voice women's rights and issues. These women get together and discussed on the issues. As I tried to mention to you last time, the elected women, the relationship Siiqqee has with elected and leaders in the country was limited before AWESOME program. But during this, because of this AWESOME project, we get a relationship, we established networking. So whenever we call them, they come and attend the workshop, review our work, and give us opinions on the issue of gender-based violence. So this was a good opportunity for us. The Oromia region elected women leaders came together from 7 concerned government offices as women caucus. Their women caucus have created and strengthened their role as women rights activism. They also identified the obstacles and hindrance issues in the women leadership roles. It was a good platform for us to share our experience and their experience and discussed on issues and look for a way forward. The annual 3,000 male engagement in the stride to end GBV and advocate for power of women is boldly on demonstrating their roles as a change agents. This one annually we planned for 3,000 male to be discussed on GBV issues. In the quarters, according to the plan, we achieved our plan. At the graduation of 6 months community conversation sessions, men have demonstrated the action that they recognize women's unpaid care work and the division of labor. So after this discussion, the men came together and they decided to take the role of women and show for the community in one place. So these are when the male cooking, you know, it's not familiar in our country, particularly in the rural area. Men do not go to the kitchen, do some activities, cooking. It's only given for women. But in this session, after this session, they want to show that they can do it also as a woman. So this is a role change at household level. All these pictures are a sample of that activity on the day. This one is when they prepare coffee. Even our main partners, they are not feeling well to prepare coffee particularly in the countryside, as all of us know, but they are starting practicing it. The activity and initiative of the members of female politicians network has also increased. Number of women activists increased and showed meaningful participation in the community. Through advocacy, some hotels and government buildings agreed to construct ramps, which was not there before, at their building for accessibility purpose in our project implementation areas. At formal institution level, industry owners continued to safeguard their female employees. Many cases of survivors exposed and taken to courts. Policy advocacy on legal reform related to SGBV, women rights and participation, specifically the right of women with disabilities, undertaken. What we learned from in this quarter particularly is equipping women for their rights significantly helpful to end GBV and work area harassment. We also learned males' engagement is a good strategy in creating change agents. Participation of stakeholders such as government, factory owners, women rights organizations is helpful in strengthening the fight against GBV, because all this come together and become a voice for survivors or victims of GBV. Awesome project methodologies became role model to other women rights organizations. Whenever we get a chance, we introduce our awesome program and what we do, so it's a good role model for other organizations too. As a challenge, limitation of legal service and care for survivors. It's very limited. Law gaps for punishment of perpetrators, which is not equivalent for the crime. You know, it's different at different time. Somebody who rape a girl sometimes charged 2 years, at another place 10 years, at another place. So there is no consistency in such law activists. Link between the legal service and medical support for the GBV victims is very poor, because at some place also we have one-stop center. Where there is one-stop center, it's easy to get the linkage between the legal service and the medical service. But that one-stop center is not available in all places, so it's a challenge. The inflation, which we mention all the time, whenever we come with challenge in Ethiopia, it's always there. The inflation rate is increasing from time to time, so people do not want to give attention for gender-based violence, rather they give attention for the day-to-day life, the struggle. This is a challenge. Absence of one-stop center, as I mentioned. Temporary shelters absence, also our challenge which we face. We don't have a place to keep a woman who is attacked until she gets legal justice. So this is our challenge, which we always mention. Regarding the disability inclusion in the project activity accomplishment, we have participated people living with disabilities in all trainings. People living with disabilities in our male engagement, they participate in there. And women with disabilities also participated in peer-to-peer sessions. In the 5 sites of AWESOME project, the people living with disabilities organized, strengthened themselves in association for collective voice and requesting their rights. They are the one, once we told them that they have the rights, then they come and ask us support. And these days they became stronger and they have their own organization. As the areas of industries, owners have continued recruiting people living with disabilities, which was not there before. SWDA is developing project proposal for the economic empowerment of people living with disabilities in group from other donors with support of EWDNA in collaboration. It's on process, not yet accomplished. SWDA is mainstreaming in all its projects inclusive of human rights. The ILO 190 campaign, we have received the allocated budget from Womankind Worldwide and on process to conduct the campaign with all concerned bodies. Maybe Galalcha or FIDA can support me. It's ongoing activity, I think, but what the progress looks like, you know better than me, so you can explain. We plan to work with EWDNA and the Ethiopian Trade Union and the Ministry of Social Affairs in collaboration too. The other organizations in Ethiopia concerned about ILO 190 are willing to work with SWDA to accomplish the campaign and create influence. Our fear here is skyrocketing inflation to cover the planned expenditure, as we have no aligned budget from AWESOME project to invest in this campaign. We can maybe further discuss on this also. This photo you see is the women, the internally displaced women around Sabata. We gave them 5,000 each, I think, Galalcha, for 1,000 women. Then they bought 2 sheep. Then their sheep became increasing from day to day, and these women became, you know, self-sufficient financially. And some established a small shop. Their shop is going to be a supermarket in the near future. This is our hope, because they are working hard. They are successful with their business. They started talking about their right. They stand by themselves. Their strength increased socially, economically, even politically, we can say. And this photo shows that the peer-to-peer discussion at Dukum in Eastern Industrial Zone. These women are all workers of industries in our area. The other one, this is Dukum, the male engagement session where elder, young men, old men, middle-aged men get together and discuss on the issue of gender-based violence. And this one is the one I mentioned before, when they prepare coffee for get-together for their partners. And this is another at Galan industry area, where women get together and discuss. These are the peer-to-peer groups. And this one is Oromia Region Elected Women Leaders Forum, which I mentioned before, on the 24th of August. This is all we have. Thank you.
Questions for Siiqqee? I have a question. I'll ask Christabella, please go first.
Okay, I have one question and 2 comments. One question is about the male engagements that you're having. Do you do them one-off, or are these, have you identified specific men who you run with them through the project and you engage them frequently, or it's just that when you want them, you call them for a meeting and give your agenda? Then the other two are just comments. I'm sorry if I'll be invading your space, but looking at the challenges that you gave, for instance, the gap in the laws that you're having, the laws that can be able to support women participation in spaces, and also the issues about having a gap in the response mechanism, the linkages between the police and maybe the hospital health providers to support women. I'm just hoping or thinking if now you could include that as a build-up to interventions in the next phase, so that you can coin your activities around maybe reviewing these laws, supporting advocacy initiatives towards having a conducive environment for women. Yeah.
Okay. Regarding the male engagement, we organize people based on the small unit, administrative unit we call kabale. So from each kabale, 50 male and boys are selected, and though they continue with the discussion for 6 months. So they are the same people discussing on different issues for 6 months in each kabale. So in all our target areas, our annual target is 3,000. So our 5-year target is to reach 15,000 male and boys. This is how we get them. This is how we target them. So these male and boys come each month, sit together, they discuss. At the end of the day, they draft bylaw, which is even more, which has more weight than the government law, because the customary laws that the community draft governs by the community, it also includes sanctioning system. So people fear to be excluded from the community, so they agree with the bylaw. That is also helping the fighting gender-based violence, because perpetrators fear the customary law rather than the legal law, because legal laws, most of the time, they demand evidence. And gender-based violence, sometimes you don't get evidence, so people can just walk away. We have seen, just let me go to the next suggestion you gave. We have criminal law, which is active and which is very good, but the problem is with interpretation. So we have found this kind of gaps in the law, and we discuss
talk about inflation, and then more questions will arise from there, and it will be more likely you asking me questions. All right. Sarah, please come forward. Forward. Please come forward. Yes, forward. Please come forward.
Hello, everyone. Yes, this is a presentation from FOWODE, Forum for Women in Democracy. Here are a highlight of the activities that we did throughout the year: training of newly elected women leaders, supported expenditure tracking exercises, joint refresher trainings for community facilitators, training new groups, civic education engagements, outreaches on positive masculinity, sub-county level dialogues, women rights reflection meetings, multimedia campaigns. I am just rushing through. And Uganda convenings with the Uganda Gender Consortium, transformative leadership camps with the young women, and then the studies on women leadership, inclusion, and gender-based violence. So the successes for us, first of all, enhancement of women leaders' capacity to play their oversight role while representing their constituencies and prioritizing women and girls' issues in the 2 districts was registered. And as a result, I've been telling you that we usually train these newly elected women leaders. And as a result, these from across the districts, they formed caucuses, and these caucuses also developed district gender action plans and advocacy plans. So in Masindi, their advocacy plan focused on promoting maternal health, whereas in Yantonde, their action plan focused on reducing girl child dropout rates for the girls, because it's really high in there. Sustained activism against SGBV is still being registered. We've been reporting on this, but it's still being registered. As a result of our civic education engagements, our community dialogues, we are seeing sustained activism amongst our citizens. They are continuously reporting on SGBV issues, but also they have gone ahead to do follow-up meetings to forge a way forward on how to follow up with these SGBV cases that they identify. I have given an example from Lyantonde, but there are very many examples. Yes, still with civic education meetings, we are seeing an example of how these communities are following up and the different strategies they are coming up with. So in Uganda, alcoholism is one of the SGBV triggers. And in Uganda, bars in communities, bars open as early as 8 a.m. in the morning. So men are usually drinking, and then when they go back home, they batter their women. So the women agreed, they convened meetings with LC1 leaders to agree on how to operationalize to regulate operations of the bars. And what they agreed upon was to ensure that bars open after lunch at 4 p.m. instead of 8 a.m. And as a result, men are now engaged in more reproductive work other than alcoholism. And we are seeing at least the rates of SGBVs reducing, especially in those villages where bars were opening as early. Mindset change towards women's rights. Men's attitude towards women's rights have continued to gradually change because of the messages on positive masculinity that we convey during our male engagement trainings. We are seeing very many men who are reported now, first of all, to supporting their women in leadership, especially at the grassroots levels. But also, we are getting reports of very many men collaborating now with their women, unlike before, especially as regards to decision-making at household level. In Uganda, in the communities, it is usually the man who usually makes decisions. So our engagements with the men have changed their mindsets. Improved transparency and accountability in families. Also, as a result of engaging these men in the different engagements that we have, men are now becoming instrumental in challenging the negative stereotypes, and they are reshaping the narrative. So it's men now on the front. These champions that we work with are now leading the campaign on sensitizing the communities on gender, on women's rights and gender. And we've also seen reports of where men now are more accountable to their families. For example, in Masini, in the Antonde specifically, there are very many men who will just sell their land without informing their women, who will just sell property at home without informing the women. But as a result of engaging these men, this has come to a reduction. We are seeing men now engaging their women in decision making at family level in terms of finance matters, and this has also promoted accountability in their homes. But also this, in the long run, it reduces the rate of SGBV, because these are the issues that will bring about the fights in homes. Promotion of peace and unity amongst families. Yes, still, this is the same way. The program, or some program, has contributed to improved ways of handling SGBV cases due to the change of methodology. So you're going to ask me what is the change in methodology. Before you ask me, so for us this year, it has been based on the learnings from the past 2 years, and these learnings have informed the different innovations that we've brought on board while implementing our activities. So before we use not to engage, before we use not to tackle the SGBV issues at family level, it was general in the community. But we found out that most of these issues are not followed up well. So what we came up with as a change in methodology is that now our community facilitators identify families with SGBV issues, and then they visit them, mediate. But also this methodology provides a safe space, one, for men to open up. Men cannot usually open up during meeting. So during this methodology, you find that a man and a woman, or a wife and a husband, our facilitators mediate, and they open up freely. And then as a result, they reach a common ground, and we find that most of the SGBV cases have been solved at the LC level instead of escalating them, because they reach a common ground. Reconciliation is achieved. So this has promoted peace and unity amongst families. The other success that we achieved is that the joint refresher training held between the facilitators and male champions has provided a greater opportunity for exchanging best practices and lessons across the different districts. So before, we used to have the refresher or the trainings for the male champions, different from the trainings with the community facilitators. But also as a learning, our facilitators and our male champions were saying, we do not understand what our facilitators are doing. We do not understand what exactly the champions are doing. Can we have a joint training together so that we also share experience, first of all, across the two different source persons categories, and also across districts? And this is what we did. We had a joint training, and the learnings, the networking, the best practices have helped in informing the new methodologies that I've talked about in this year as we're implementing. And as you see here, these are pictures of this training. This is Honorable Winnie Kiza, who trained our grassroots women. They were so excited. She was a leader of opposition, and for them to have such a woman training them, it was such a big deal. This is a technical person in gender and inclusion, gender and disability inclusion. We are so intentional also to bring on board technical persons in training us from the gender and disability part. Improved understanding and interpretation of government programs, plans, and budgets within the communities, which has led to enhanced service delivery. So FOWODE uses a model where whereby our during civic education meetings, much as we use the civic education meetings to sensitize communities on SGBV, but we also utilize these spaces to identify those issues and then push them forward to be addressed. So during these civic education meetings, sometimes we invite the leaders in civic education meetings, one, to answer questions on how they have been able to address women issues, two, on how they have been able to follow up our issues that we previously have been tabled before them. So as a result of this, our communities are now understanding more on how government programs and plans or budgets are run. Because a woman councillor will stand before them and explain, I am not able to do this because the process is here. This has not been implemented because maybe the budget is minimal. So as a result, our communities are now understanding and interpret government programs, and they also participate in the budget process in the long run. So example here, we have different examples of how our women are now monitoring government service delivery. Much as we are dealing in SGBV, but women groups have gone ahead to monitor government service delivery in health facilities to make sure how are our women accessing SGBV services, in health facilities. How are our girls treated in schools? And we have had issues brought out from these schools and health facilities, then tabled during civic education meetings. But as a result, we are seeing improvement in service delivery. Influence of budget allocation towards service delivery, influence of budget allocations towards service delivery. This comes from what I've shared above. All the issues that are identified by our women groups are followed up, because if a woman councillor or leader commits herself during a meeting, these women will now go ahead to follow up. In the next meeting, we invite them again to find out what have you done from what was tabled last meeting. I have a very good example here in Masindi, where where the groups identified a road and then lack of water in a certain village. They tabled this before the sub-county leadership, and then afterwards, when the leadership promised to have it in the next year's budget, these women continue to follow up. As soon as the budget was read, in the next community dialogue, they made sure they invited the sub-county leadership to give them an update on whether their boreholes have been included. And yes, 3 boreholes were included in the budget. Strengthened accountability towards SGBV management, hence influencing leaders' responsiveness, has been achieved, and this is as a result of the increased community activism against SGBV across the 2 sub-counties. Like I told you, we use, for us, we call it a community budget accountability model. So issues come from the grassroots, from the civic education. They are now pushed to the sub-county leaders, dialogues, which we call accountability platforms for us. So as a result, the issues that were tabled during sub-county dialogues, some of them are related with SGBV. First of all, there is a lot of mismanagement of SGBV cases in Uganda, especially at grassroots level. So we utilize these sub-county dialogues the women utilize those spaces to hold the leaders accountable on the cases that have been mismanaged. Reduced rates in SGBV triggers have been reported. As a result of enhanced awareness and improved responsibility of citizens' roles and their responsibilities, we have seen reduction in the rates of alcoholism. Like I told you, alcoholism has been cited as one of the SGBV triggers in Uganda. So as a result of the engagement in community dialogues, in male engagement trainings, communities have done follow-up actions on villages, whereby they have came up with actions to to regulate operations of bars, which has helped men to reduce down on their rates of drinking. So this has, as a result, reduced the triggers. More men are seen in more productive work, unlike before. The other is the growth of the Uganda Gender Consortium, bringing on board new players. Before I go on with this, FOWODE in Uganda led the formation of the Uganda Gender Consortium. The Uganda Gender Consortium on SDG is a body of, it's a consortium that is comprised of organizations, which and our mandate is to ensure that we see the progress, we analyze and see the progress of gender, the progress of implementation of SDGs in Uganda. So FOWODE is coordinating this body. In this year, our membership grew from 41 to 47, and this is because this is set to enhance the advocacy for gender equality in the implementation of SDGs. Why I cited this as an achievement, the growth to our membership, is because we brought on board the SDG Secretariat. In Uganda, the SDG Secretariat that is coordinating SDG implementation or acceleration of SDG implementation in Uganda sits in the OPM. So we brought them on board. Sorry? What did I say? OPM, okay. Office of the Prime Minister, yes. So we brought these ones on board, and this has strengthened our networking, our engagements with them, because they are the leading body in Uganda. And for us, we are actually monitoring what they are doing. So we brought them on board. Yes, as a Uganda Gender Consortium, we developed a shadow report to analyze the progress towards gender responsive implementation, like I told you. And this report, first of all, it was shared with the Secretariat, and this report later informed the deliberations at their high-level political forum in New York. And also, we are happy to tell you that the Secretariat requested for partnership with us. So because this shadow report was so informative, they picked the recommendations and they benched on these recommendations to engage at the high-level political forum. So for us, that was a win. Representation of the Uganda Gender Consortium in the technical space, in the planning and the National SDG Conference. Yes, like I told you, we brought the Secretariat on board, and they gave us a slot on the National SDG Networking Committee in Uganda, and we are actively engaged. Development and presentation of position papers to line ministries. I've been telling you that we are doing a lot of budget work. So after the reading of the budget, we did a press conference. First of all, we developed a press release to show the wins and the losses for us women. And after that, we developed a position paper, which we presented in the gender committee. And this position paper was highlighting the gender pressing needs that were not prioritized. And then we laid out recommendations for the committee. And then one of the key the key recommendation that we put forward was the construction of at least 10 regional GBV shelters in Uganda, and it was integrated in the report. And we are closely following up on that. As soon as the next budget will be ready, we shall be on the lookout. Lessons learned, I won't go through that. So the challenges. Government restriction on Facebook has hindered our ability to reach out to stakeholders using the social media, especially for the young women. So the young women do not understand the Twitter, those X. No, they are so familiar with Facebook. So we are not able to reach them as we would like to do. But we are still mitigating this. We are using our social media platforms, the X, the websites, the radio, the TV, and the print media. We are hopeful maybe it will be opened later. The other challenge is that some of the trained resource persons relocated to the community, relocated from the communities, and this affected our program implementation, thereby causing some delays. So we work with resident resource persons. So 3 of them relocated. Why was it a big deal? One of our, each community person supports 2 groups. So if 3 relocated, it means 3 groups did not have support. So that, in a way, hindered our or delayed our implementation. So we mitigated it by replacing them, training the new recruits, and also maintaining the old ones. So these are pictures of our engagements. Here, it's Masindi District Caucus. During the training, they were developing their action plan, like I told you. This is the Antonde Caucus developing their action plans. This was a training in the communities. This was a Uganda Gender Consortium meeting. This is an engagement for women rights reflection meetings in Masindi, and this is a community dialogue. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Any questions for FOWODE? Any questions?
Thank you. Not really a question, Sarah. Thank you for that elaborate presentation, but it's a clarification where you said you work with community facilitators. I just wanted to understand the community facilitators, because you said you have community facilitators, you have male allies that you work with. Are they like, when you work with them, are they like TOTs? Are you equipping them to be trainers of trainers?
You answer the question right. We're equipping them to become trainers or trainees, and also to support the groups all through.
Okay, yeah. I get that.
Thank you.
It's just a quick question. You said the drinking habits are reduced or dropped down. So did you make a kind of assessment or just observation? How did you find out that?
So that one is really from the testimonies of the group members. And also one of the methods they used is to sort of not over-highlight the drinking as a reason for violence. They were asking the men who were blaming their violence on alcohol, you know, if alcohol gives you that much strength and power, how come you don't go and attack like a barracks or a police station? How come you go home and attack the wife if you have so much strength? So it's really from the stories of the beneficiaries.
Actually, it's just a comment, not only for FOWODE, but also maybe FIDA-Kenya. Looking at the wonderful works you have heard, I always eager to see the disability mention, you know. I have never seen mention of disability in your presentation, and that was why we are here together, so that you can voice for us in our absence. You can talk about persons with disability or women with disability in the absence of persons with disability. So it's just a comment for all, except SWDA, who have got inclusion aspect.
I am sorry that I didn't highlight that strongly, but in all our activities that we implement, we have a number of people with disabilities that should be part of the meeting. And actually, management cannot approve a requisition without that number. Also, in all our venues, as we identify the venues for activities, you have to make sure that they are disability friendly. And also, to make sure that our people with disabilities participate effectively, we have a budget to support our people with disabilities, for example, with inclusion support.
To add on to that, I get you and I hear you that our reporting is actually not as inclusive as should be, and we usually bank on our sisters NUWODU to help us cover up the reporting on women with disabilities, but we do hear you because we are actually doing so much work with persons with disabilities. Some of the groups in each sub-county that we are in, there is a group that is specifically formed up with women with disabilities, so that should have been highlighted. We also have a lesson that we learned from NUWODU, and now in our meetings, especially at national level event, we bring in sign language interpreters. That's something that FOWODE had never thought about. And so, yes, our reporting will be more inclusive, but we're doing all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. FIDA, would you like to respond as well?
Thank you for that question. In regards to inclusion, what we have done, we partner with various stakeholders. WCC is one of them from time to time, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, which is the state agency mandated to oversee issues around disability. The National Gender Equality Commission takes care of the marginalized groups, where we find, and it's in the Constitution, Article 100, where we find the youth, persons with disabilities, the elderly, and also people from the marginalized communities. Specifically to FIDA, maybe what didn't come out through the presentations is that one of the CBOs that is supported under AWESOME is a CBO that is made up of persons with disability. So that tells you. And under AWESOME, we support 15 CBOs. So during the initial mapping, that was identified as a need, and we continue to support that CBO. They send to us reports, which is a step towards the right direction. We during our presentations, we mentioned something about male inclusion, what we are calling male champions. One of the male champions that we work with under the AWESOME program directly is a visually impaired person. And he's been part of this program, and he does stellar job down at the coast. That tells you he at least helps us create awareness. And also what I know from the reports that we receive from our male champions, they are able to, whenever they are having, because remember, AWESOME takes care of SGBV, GBV issues and women political participation and leadership. Whenever they are having their convenings, you will see from their reports from time to time, they will have women with disabilities participating in whatever it is they are doing. Through also the male engagement, they have helped us mark UN calendar days, such as the 16 days of activism. The UN Day of Persons with Disabilities, which in Kenya has now been cascaded, so to speak, or is done. There's the national one, and then there are the ones that are done at the county levels. Our male champions also get to participate and create, because at that level, at the county level, all you need to do is identify with the coordinator and then the relevant ministry, in this case, which would be gender and where social services and labor are placed, and then get to be part of that event. So you do really see there are male champions come out to support the disability cause. Under AWESOME, we also work a lot with women rights organizations that have been part of this program. Our WROs help us, because remember, these are women-led, women-driven, and they work a lot on human rights. So they will highlight. We're just in the process of, we've had quite a few of engagements for this year with our women rights organizations, and they do help us highlight some of these gaps in these counties. On a positive note, for this year, as we move towards 16 days of activism, I'm concluding, Maureen, I can see your uneasiness. A county like Nyeri, where we have worked before, didn't have a gender policy. They'll be launching the same. And this is through intervention of both government and civil society organizations through the WROs. That's on a positive note. In Murang'a, also through, in conclusion,
Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you.
I'm stopping you also because I think you might be missing Frikkite's point. Frikkite's, Yeah, it should be written. Like,
Okay.
unfortunately, because of our colonial history, we're no longer an oral community.
Okay.
So written word is key. And I think Fikite was saying that she also actually wants to see it come out in presentations. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Also, like when you send us, when we get the JCSC presentations, they're sometimes used in board presentations. They're sometimes used in donor presentations. And the thing is, we use what we have on paper. So if it's not on paper, it doesn't show that the mainstream women's rights organizations are being inclusive. And it also shows that there's a gap in, as Fikite said, the intention of AWESOME. So I think that that's the point, to put it in writing, to put it also in your reports to us, to show the progress around inclusion or in the written word. Until we convince donors that we can send videotapes and other things, I think it's really important. Thank you everyone for your contributions. We're very, very late on the health break. So we only have 15 minutes for it. So if everyone can come back at 12, I'll give the Womankind presentation. Yeah, and there are lots of issues to raise, so hopefully everyone can be back here at 12, so that if people have queries about the Womankind presentation, those can be answered as well, and not in a rushed way. All right. The food is served on the balcony.